So I'm going to hand it over to Richard to go ahead and kick things off.
Yeah, hi everybody. Richard Harris here from the Harris Consulting Group. Also with Sales Hacker, been working with them for the last 10 years. So excited to be here. Would love for everybody, if you don't mind, go in the chat. Tell us where you're dialing in from. Tell us what your role is. If you're comfortable sharing, we understand, some of you may be actively looking, which may mean you don't have a job, may mean you do. So we're very conscious of that. We want to have a very safe space for people to ask questions and participate. So we understand that sometimes if it's a recording thing, you might not. Send us stuff directly to KG or myself. If you're like, hey, I want to ask this question, but I can't ask, I need to be anonymous. We'll ask it anonymously for you. And so we're super excited to be here. I'm going to pause there. KG, over to you, my man.
Hey, I'm Kevin Gaither. Most people just call me KG. I've been in sales and sales leadership since 1994. That makes me really old. I've been at 8 startups.
I beat you by 2 years, my man. 92.
You're old. You're old too. I'm age shaming you. And I've been at 8 startups, 3 of which have had exits. And currently I run my own business, Inside Sales Expert.com. But on the side, I love helping job seekers for free because most people don't know how to do it. Most people screw it up. And Richard and I have some secrets, inside secrets. And I spent 8 years at ZipRecruiter. So I know a little something about what a good resume looks like in a search process should look like.
Totally. I was glad you brought that up because I want to make sure people know that KG and I met years ago at different startups. KG, how big was ZipRecruiter when you started?
I was the 49th employee, 0 salespeople.
And how big was it when you left?
About 1,400 total employees, 550 salespeople, both inside sales and enterprise sales.
So I really wanted to just point that out because as we talk about resumes and job seeking and sales in general, KG's just a savant. And as much as I know, and I love to share my knowledge, I think that's just hot fire to know that someone was at ZipRecruiter specifically for that long. So
thank you.
All right, KG, where are we going to kick this thing off?
Well, the biggest mistake that I find is actually at a real fundamental strategic level. And Richard and you and I have talked about this, in the past. Here's a good quote for you all. If you never set a target, you'll hit it every time. If you never set a target, you'll hit it every time. Most people start jumping into applying to jobs and updating their resume and doing all this kind of baloney, but they lack focus. And I'm assuming there's a lot of salespeople on this call. And if you can appreciate a focused sales strategy, we want you selling into an area where you have a high probability of success. We're going to have you not call every single company on the planet. We're going to have you call the companies that meet our ideal customer profile. So when you think about your ideal customer profile in sales, you need to think about your ideal job, your ideal company. And I like to wrap that up in a mission statement.
So what's a good one, KG? Because KG, we were talking about this yesterday, and I'm like, KG, you fucking kidding me? Like, really? I got to have a mission statement. I am so tactical. This is why it's good for us to be here.
Let's go.
Let me just do my resume and roll. So what does that mean? Because if I hear you say that, and I think of all these buzzwords, seeking a job at a SaaS early stage startup, Series A, B, C, is that it? Maybe that is it. I don't know. What's good?
Yeah, that's right. So let me just go to the opposite side. So we've got a good amount of people on this seminar, webinar, and many have probably already reached out to friends and have said something like, if you know of anybody hiring, can you let me know? If you know of anybody hiring SDRs or salespeople, let me know. The problem with that, Richard, is that it's not specific enough. Are you looking for an in-office job? Are you looking for a remote job? Are you looking for a specific level of compensation? Do you want commission only? Do you want to be in SaaS sales, or you want to be slanging T-Mobile at the local retail shop? Hey, look, I'll hook you up at AT&T if you want. I know people that are hiring. You know what I mean? If you're not specific enough. And so When I work with job seekers, I ask them to get very, very specific about various aspects of their job search, including the type of company that they're looking for. What does that break down to? An industry. Do I want to be in SaaS sales? Do I want to be in manufacturing? Do I want to be in services? Do I want to be in advertising? Where's that company going to be located? Does it matter to me that it's located near me or not? Those things may not matter to you. Get specific. Is this an early stage company? A round funding or seed round funding where it's really scrappy and you're going to be doing a lot of things? Or would you prefer to be at a larger company that's very well established, maybe publicly traded, and there's a very, clear defined, career path? All these things become very specific. Are you looking for stock options? Do you need benefits? Are you looking to do an account management job, SDR job, AE job? Is it enterprise sales? Is it SMB sales, transactional or relationship oriented?
We got it. Okay, stop. You'll go on. You'll bore people. People are falling asleep. I can already tell. So questions, just out of curiosity, you can go into the chat. Is this helpful for people? Like, is this, how many people do this? Just say yes or no. Like,
how many people have written down
yes
their mission statement? Bueller.
Well, people may be cautious. Like, we want to create that space, that safe space.
Not yet.
So
for sure. Adrian has done it. That's
all right.
Not yet.
And again, I'll ask, and you can respond in the chat. For those who have done it, has it helped you stay focused to find the right thing? Because I know that legitimately, like, medication involved ADHD, and I can chase a shiny penny like there's no tomorrow. Oh my God, T-Mobile's looking for a VP of sales at such and such level or area manager, when in fact my experiences is in SaaS, but gosh, T-Mobile would look good on my resume, or, like all those kinds of things. So I think it's a really, really important piece. And I like what you just said, William, that it's a focus statement. Really great way to describe that. So
that's right. And Stacy's saying easy to get squirreled on so many jobs.
Yep.
That's exactly correct.
Yep.
And I want to state this in the reverse again. When you go to somebody and say, I'm looking for a company that is in SaaS and it's in Los Angeles and they have about 100 employees and they have a sales process that's already figured out and a base salary and benefits, that gives people something far more specific to help you with, as opposed to know of anybody that's hiring. When you can get specific, people can help you.
Got it. Cool. All right. So what's next, KG? Let's roll with the next piece of this.
Yeah. Well, then is your resume, right? Then is the resume.
So talk to us. Tell me what's bad about resumes.
Am I allowed to use foul language here,
yes.
Richard?
Yeah. Look, yeah. If someone's offended, sorry.
Look, man, especially I'm exposed to sales resumes, and most sales resumes are dog shit. And the reason why they're dog shit is because the resume tells me what your responsibilities were. Richard, what should it say?
It should tell me what you've accomplished.
Exactly. And more specifically, what should those accomplishments look like, Richard?
Yes. So I'm actually going to share my screen real quick. So this is someone as confidential. I mean, I've anonymized it. If you know this person, be quiet. Let me make sure I pull up the right one. So, yeah. So can you see the resume that says created new SMB? Do you see that?
It still says started screen sharing. Don't see it.
There we go.
There it is.
All right. So that's version 1. And I coach people on this all the time. And KG, I don't actually know if you agree with what I'm about to show the crew, but that's what I get. That's better than a lot because it talks about responsibilities.
Yes.
What I think is better is this is the exact same resume. Can you see?
Yes.
Right? It's numbers first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right. That's right. It's easy to digest.
Yep. The other thing I will say is that little diatribe responsible for blah, 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 blah. If you're going to put it in there and there's a place for it, it goes underneath this stuff.
Sure.
It goes under the numbers. The reason I like the number stuff is that one, once it gets to a human, and we're going to talk about how you even make sure it gets to the human, it's oftentimes an HR person who doesn't know jack about hiring salespeople, but they definitely know to look for numbers. Mm-hmm. So this will get you hopefully to the top of the pile.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And let me yes and the hell out of you on this one here. Nobody knows. I'm looking at this resume. I have no idea if $2.3 million of net new ARR is good. You may have been last on the team. You may have been the worst director of sales, but everybody knows what 114% of the ramp quota means. Everybody knows what 104% of FQBR quota in untested. Everybody knows 60% decrease. It's relative to something. And furthermore, what's also missing from this is a ranking. You know, I would also love to see ranked 1 out of 6 directors of sales or something like that. Just numbers. Tell me what you accomplished, not what your job responsibility is. Numbers, dollar signs, rankings, percentages are fantastic. By the way, did this person awards? Did this person get salesperson of the month 3 months out of the year? Did this person make President's Club? Do you know how interested I would be in talking to a President's Club attaining salesperson?
Hey, I have a question for you, KG. This came in anonymously, which is, what happens if you hit Q1 and Q2 of 2022, but you missed Q3? Mm-hmm. Do you put Q1, 110% Q1, 120% Q2, 85% Q3, or do you just skip that? Like, what do you do? Because I think that's always
yes. So, there's this thing, lying by omission, so if you're leaving it out, the reader is going to go, well, what else are you leaving out? I actually like to be honest about that stuff and be.
But what if the company jacked my goals for the second half of the year because they didn't want to pay me commission? Do I still put the number there?
I would certainly recommend that for sure. Okay. But be prepared with a professional response to, well, wait a minute, I see that you had this dip. You were 85% to goal. What happened there? If your response is to become a jerk and go, they jacked my quota,
I'm going to take the opposite approach to this, which is I'd probably leave it off because they want to see accomplishments. They'll ask, they'll know. Now, I can't say that, but I agree with KG that it's like, by omission, like, okay, but if they can see I can hit quota, then it's obviously going to be a conversation. Mm-hmm. And if I've got other numbers to put, like this particular person, then I can justify it. But again, I think I don't know that there's one right or wrong answer. I just want to make sure that people know that different people have different opinions. So
yeah, and be prepared. And look, Richard, let me ask you this: do you think it's likely that out of 100 salespeople, all of them have always hit quota?
No, come on. So we all know
exactly.
Which is why I don't mind leaving it out if I've got this other stuff.
Yeah. So the point to the listeners here, nobody expects that you're gonna always hit quota. In fact, if you say to me during the interview or on your resume, never missed quota, always missed quota, you better believe I'm going to dig even deeper, because that's a rare scenario where somebody has never missed quota.
So let's pause for a second too. I want to go a little bit deeper on the resume piece. And then I also want to make sure we come back and let's talk about what the job search process should look like in a second after we finish this resume piece. Because we talked about this, creating a mission statement. Well, it can be exhausting to apply for a job, but what else? What other kinds of things? Let's talk about SEOing your resume. KG, you know this because you were a ZipRecruiter.
Yes.
So tell people what that means to SEO your resume.
Yeah, SEO meaning search engine optimization, but really, what you want to have is your resume matches the job description. So let me give you a little behind the scenes. When a candidate applies to ZipRecruiter, they take the resume and they scan the resume for all the words. When an employer posts a job, they scan the job for all the words. And then the matching puts it together and says, this word matches this, and there's a percentage and all this kind of stuff. These words on this resume match these words over here. And that's how the machine behind the scenes matches. And so what you want to look for then is your ideal customer, profile and the job description that looks like something that you want, and look at some of the specific words that are in those job descriptions and make sure that those words exist within your resume. They may be buzzwords, that's fine, but make sure that those words match the job descriptions for which you may not get that job, but you want to have it look like that job. So when the machines suck in the resume at ZipRecruiter or the employer themselves, the matching shows up and says, this resume matches the job description highly.
So what percentage, like if I'm hiring someone and I'm using a ZipRecruiter, and we know there's a bunch of other people out there, but we won't talk about them.
Indeed, we will not.
Yeah, well played. What percentage do people typically look for? Are they looking for 80%, 70% match? Do they just want to see some, Richard, it's 15%, 20%.
No, it's high. And here they just want to see a high percentage. What you have to understand from the recruiter's perspective, they're getting hundreds of resumes for this job. And so it's like when you're at a museum and you look at a picture and you're like, 7 seconds. Okay, I'm good. And so there's all these, you're going to get 7 seconds of visibility. And so the recruiters have all these tools on the back end that sort the resume by best match. And they're literally just going down the line until they're exhausted. They don't have the recruiters don't say, most recruiters aren't going to go, if it's only 50% and above is where I, stop looking or start looking or what have you. They sort by best match on down. And so now they're looking at the best matched resumes and work their way on down. And honestly, they do it until they're exhausted. It's really difficult doing their job and reviewing resumes. Trust me.
There's a question coming in from the audience, and then we'll go back to this. Like, what does my job search look like for 8 hours a day kind of stuff? But so really, how do you explain the pause as a positive thing, right? You got a gap in your resume, right? And it's not as hard as I think people think it is.
I agree.
I think that, I went through this at the age of 40 and I was like, oh my God, I'm 40. No, I can't have a pause on my resume. It looks like I'm old and nobody wants to hire me. I figured out how to do it. But so KG, I have some advice, but what's your advice?
Honesty is the best policy. Now, I'm not a fan of here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see you come up with some bullshit job like consultant at KG Consulting, that's not what I want to see, because now that looks like you're trying to pull the wool over my eyes. Come on. So, but don't put it on there. And there's only a handful of really good interviewers that are going to look down their resume and see the gap in the first place. Be prepared to discuss the gap. I'll give you an example. I was fired in September of 2001, and I had a 6-week gap on the resume. I leave it in there. Leave the gap in there. Most people don't even catch it. When they do catch it, then I have my prepared statement, and I was honest. And I was fired.
Let's talk about the big gap, though, because I have the same one. Like 6 weeks, you can explain away. It takes a while to find a job, right? What if it's 6 months?
Leave it out. Right? I say leave it out, but once again, be prepared.
What do you mean leave it out? You mean don't
put big, resume gap from date to date. Like, don't put that on your resume is what I'm saying.
Right. What do you do if, let's say, you worked somewhere and it was, you kind of got laid off. This actually happened to me in like January or February. So I was there for, what year was that? That was 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. And it took me till June to get my next job. Mm-hmm. Now, in my resume, like oftentimes, particularly on LinkedIn, it'll say month and year. Yep. You just go 21, 22, and you leave the month out, or you go super honest?
No. Here's the deal, man. When you hide shit from me, I think you're hiding a bunch of other stuff. Like, so you're hiding this. What else are you hiding? That's how I think about this.
Right. Because it'll come up in the live interview. They'll be like, oh, so you were there. When did you leave? Oh, what happened?
That's right.
And unless you're willing to answer it and you have a good answer, which you should, it can create an awkward moment.
Yeah. Kristen's bringing this up here. She says, does it make sense to just use years instead of, for example, January 2020 through August 2020? No, I am advocating use January 2020 through August 2020.
Yeah.
Be honest and upfront about that, in my opinion.
Here's the coolest part, particularly for the last 3 years. You know why you have a gap in the resume? COVID and the economy. Like, there's nobody, you can easily say, they say, what happened? COVID, people had to downsize. Okay, you got a job. Now what's happening? Look, they're downsizing again because of the economy. Like, nobody's it's not usually not untrue unless you did something really egregious. And people know that it's the fact. Like, that's the beauty of sales. The beauty of sales is that we are always free agents. So we can always find the next thing. And as long as you don't lie, you're good. And people trust you more. I would also say, going into an email or into an interview, I would say, by the way, before we even get started, I'm sure you're going to ask me about this gap in my resume. Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Like, just own it, get it, handle it, marinate in that thing, and then be done with it so you can get on to the important stuff.
Yeah, totally. But by the way, Steven disagrees with our strategy, and I think that's totally cool. And he's making a really, really good point. Your resume is a marketing vehicle. It is a highlight reel. It's a sales brochure. Steven is 100% correct. We should make him the co-host. No, he's fantastic. That is 100% correct. We're talking about tactics, by the way. Do you leave the month in or take the month out? It's very, very tactical. Hey, your mileage might vary. What Richard and I are trying to point out, though, is be truthful. Be truthful. And when you have just the year, some interviewers might look at that and go, what are you hiding? So be upfront and be truthful on your resume. It doesn't have to be exactly as Steven says. It doesn't have to be this academic curriculum. That I totally agree. It's a marketing vehicle. But be honest. Yeah. Be honest.
I'm actually a fan of the year, and then I just address it because I already know they're going to ask. So I'm okay with that year piece.
Either way,
very tactical. If there's a gap in there, that's fine. So
yeah. But once we got the resume, what do we do next, though? Let's get to that piece.
But I want to go back. What's the job search process look like? Got laid off. I got 8 hours a day. Am I grinding 8 hours a day?
Nah.
What are you doing?
No. So this is. I believe that you're going to have a multi-channel approach to this. Okay. Yes, you're going to use your Indeeds and ZipRecruiters of the world and your Google for jobs, and you're going to apply. Here are the real stats, and I'll give you some real stats from ZipRecruiter. When I was hiring 40 salespeople a month, we would only hire 3.45% of the applications. And that was on the inside sales team. On the enterprise sales team, it was less than 1% of those that applied got the job. What does that mean? That means that the application, you're going to apply and you're not going to hear a damn thing. So that piece, you're going to have to do it, and you're just going to have to play the numbers game. 100 resumes, and maybe you'll get it.
So I'm gonna break this down. I actually have written about this a lot. Is that one? You're not applying to a role. You're applying to an organization. So in my mind, first I have to painfully update the resume and SEO it. I apply. I will then go to LinkedIn and look for the head of HR.
Yes.
And I will send a message saying, hey, I just applied. Who should I speak with? I will then go and look for who I think is the hiring manager.
Yeah.
Hey, I just applied. Who should I speak with? And I will even go to 2 or 3 of them. And I don't care if they all compare notes. And I heard from that guy, Richard, too. Like, we're in sales. That's what we're supposed to.
Who cares?
I will then go and find the email nomenclature for that company, and I will send them an email. I've gone so far when I did this for myself. I've even gone so far to go K. Gaither at ZipRecruiter, Kevin Gaither, and I'll say, hey, sorry for all these things. I'm just trying to get into your inbox, right?
Totally.
So then I've got that. Then, yeah, guess what? Old school, pick up the phone, even if you have to go through the phone tree. So what ends up happening is that they now have it's just like sales, it's a multi-channel approach to get in.
That's right.
And they're going to be appreciative of the effort. And you're applying to the company, not the role. I'm down. By the way, I'm totally down with LinkedIn, the CEO. Hey, I just applied for this role. I'm super excited. Just what are they going to do? Say no?
100%.
Until you answer back, you get an answer. It's already a no.
But your point is you're doing something different than just
yes
applying. And so at ZipRecruiter, we literally called it the job seeker black hole, because we knew that you're going to apply and you're not going to hear anything back. What Richard is doing something different to create that reply back, to create that interaction, and to create that impression. And that is, you have to do something different to be able to draw yourself, to make yourself a shortlisted candidate. Richard does stuff that most people on this webinar are not going to be willing to do because it takes extra effort.
So this comes back to the mindset piece, which is, okay, that means I may only be able to apply to 3 or 4 companies a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Because I don't think you can spend 8 hours doing that. In my world, like, you can get really depressed. So it is about going for a walk. It is about sitting for 30 seconds or a minute and just trying to meditate or let go, or like literally sit in the sunshine and just let that sun, warm your soul a little bit. I have kids, so I was able to build a structure of, I got up every morning. I still worked out. I did my job search for a certain amount of time. I reached out to recruiters at a different time of the day. And then I picked up my kids. And over time, I built my pipeline. Like, KG and I are probably, like, if I could get paid to go on job interviews, Jesus, oh my God, that'd be the best job in the world for me. Because we'll move into the next part, but
yeah,
getting to that phase is important. So anyways, I hope that helps answer some of these questions around, well, what does the process look like?
Yeah. And I've got another pro tip. And again, this is, people don't do this stuff. I helped a graduating student who was in electrical engineering, not sales. And he was in Houston, Texas. And I helped him get his first job out of college after 6 months not being able to do it. And here's the one thing I helped him with that blew it away. I went back to him. Now, this is an electrical engineer, not as gregarious as salespeople typically. And I said, after we get off this call, I want you to write. So we've updated his resume. He's got a mission statement that's very clear about what he's looking for. And I said, now write down a list of 20 names of people that you think you can go to simply ask for help. Former professors, friends of parents, whatever. Start writing down this list. Just write a list down in Google Docs. Just write. Then reach out to those people on LinkedIn or email or text message and copy and paste your mission statement. Hey, Richard, I'm looking for work, as you know, probably, and I'm looking for this. You copy and paste your mission statement. I'm looking for this. Do you know of any companies that I should possibly reach out to? What you'll find is that you'll get about 15 names in after just reaching in and asking for help. You'll be overwhelmed. You'll be overwhelmed because people will think of names of companies that you should reach out to, people you should talk to. As an adjunct to your job search, this is a great way to do it. Stacy is saying it's great if you have a connection. Well, there you go. That's how you're going to get a connection. Somebody's going to help you and say, oh, let's go here. So ask for help during your job search.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to help you.
All right. So where are we going? All right. So we got our resume. Now what, KG? Where are we going?
Yeah, well, with the assumption then that they looked at your resume and it's all Richardified and it looks fantastic, and they say, "Great, we'd like to interview you." Now you're coming in. You're gonna wing it. Are you gonna wing your interview, Richard?
So yeah. So for me, most leaders are terrible at interviewing because nobody's been. By the way, nobody teaches us this stuff.
Nope.
Nobody ever taught us this stuff. And by the way, nobody ever taught us how to interview as a candidate. So, it's okay to ask the questions. My concern is, what questions are you going to ask? I could care less about what they're going to ask me, because they're going to ask me all the stupid questions anyway. So if I'm a rep, I want to know I'm going in to interview them. They're not interviewing me. I need to know if I want to work for a guy like Richard or KG. So I encourage people to ask these kinds of questions of like, hey, assuming I get to go talk to your team in the next round of the interview phase, and I ask them, what kind of leader are you? What are they going to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see my leader squirm, because if they can't handle it, I need to know that. Doesn't mean I wouldn't work for them. I just need to know what I'm walking into. I will ask questions of, aside from me hitting this number, KG, what else do I need to do to help you achieve your goals? And in fact, that's usually my first question before the one about the team, because now I'm making it all about KG, and I'm making it all about him or her, and have them go, okay, this person gets it. And they may turn around and say, you know what, just hit the number, man. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Like, okay, great. My other third question, and then I'll let KG throw out some questions that he wants y'all to ask, which is, hey, KG, if you could snap your fingers tomorrow and 3 things changed overnight, what would those 3 things be? And every leader will turn around and go, oh, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me for that. And they're going to say this and this and this. And I'll be like, great. What's preventing it from happening?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what the internal culture of getting shit done is like.
Yep.
And believe me, it's okay to ask it. People will sometimes be in an early stage. Well, it's like, we're in the hiring phase. We just can't get there. All right. It's an honest answer. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
To me, I want you to ask those thought-provoking questions that make you stand out because you see it differently. It doesn't mean you can't ask, well, what's a day in the life like? How many people you should ask some questions about goal attainment and stuff, but I think KG will probably bring that one up. You can ask those standards, but go different. Be everybody else. All those standard questions like, hey, what's in the day in the life? That's just like saying, just checking in, reaching out.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Oh, God. No, you're 100% correct. Like, please don't ask, like, where's the company see itself in 5 years? And, what's the vacation policy around here? And, that tells me nothing about you as a candidate. In fact, I love to hear the questions that the candidate asks, because it gives me insight into whether or not this candidate gives a rat's ass or not. And guess what?
Can they ask the tough questions?
I want them to ask tough questions. I want them to say things like, and this is a 2-parter. You're going to want to write this one down. Here's the 2-parter. What percentage of your sales team hit quota last month or last quarter? Oh, okay, great. And they give you some number and you go, can you share your screen and show me your HubSpot Salesforce dashboard that shows me that? Would that be okay?
Wow.
How about that? How about that? Like, show me, don't tell me. That's a good one. Yeah. There's this gold star question that people ask sometimes that I really like. Hey, let's fast forward to 12 months from now. What would earn me a gold star working for you? And let them answer that question. That tells you what they, and if they say, just hit your quota, tell me more about that. There's got to be something, more than that. But the key to coming up with the questions that you want to ask is getting really clear about what is important to you. For example, a work-life balance is incredibly important to me, to KG. So when I interview with companies, I say to them, tell me about the last time the CEO did something that supports a healthy work-life balance. Now, the tell me about a time is important, as opposed to saying, does your company support a work-life balance? The smart person on the other side of the table is going to say yes. Instead, you're going to say, tell me about a time when the CEO did something that supported a healthy work-life balance. It forces the interviewer to give you a story about when the last time the CEO supported a healthy work-life balance. The story becomes important as opposed to looking for the right answer. Hopefully people understood the difference, there. But come up with what's important to you,
yep.
And then structure your question. Is a promotion path important to you?
Yep.
Then ask questions about what is the promotion path? How many people have gotten promoted? on your team in the last quarter?
Cool. There's a question that came in from the audience a little bit ago, so I apologize we didn't get to it sooner, but I want to come back to it. I'm concerned that my 17 years at one company will hurt my job search. What are your thoughts?
I want to know why they think that would hurt.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm like, that's amazing.
Do you feel comfortable in anybody chatting that why they feel that way? That's a really interesting one. I don't view that as bad at all, by the way.
I see that. What I feel like is that says I'm old, right? That it says, oh, I look old,
Sure.
and I'm not innovative or creative. However, you spin that as, look at all this experience I have, look at all this knowledge I can bring. And in my mind, if you bring up the different pieces of your accomplishments, like in the bullet, like accomplish this, you're like, all right, 17 years. Yeah. It shows loyalty.
Yeah.
It shows that you are looking for that thing, That's so right. I think it's not a big deal. I have felt that of that, and of like, oh my God, it makes me look old. You can flip it and say, well, what about the job hopper? Every 6 months, every 12 months, you're looking for a new role. Again, this is where most interviewers suck. If they're in a startup world, it's like, well, what do you expect? You want somebody there for 3 years, but you've only been around 2. It's like, give a break. Like they don't know.
That's right.
That being said, again, you do have the story of, it could be COVID, it could be this. I've had many jobs where, one of my favorite answers is they promised me one thing and they delivered nothing. That's why I left. So I took the job until I found a better job. Yeah. They didn't meet their promises.
I think the important point you're making here, Richard, is that it doesn't matter if it's a 6-month stint or a 17-month stint.
Yeah.
Having a really clear statement of why you're leaving and why you're looking for new opportunities. Most candidates don't prepare for that. And you need to prepare each company that you've left. What was your reason for leaving? And be truthful. Good interviewers are going to dive even.
And I think too, I love what William said, 1 year experience 17 times. It's a great thought. If you've been promoted and you had different roles, you can break up that 17 years.
Yeah.
Even though it's, so you can sort of paragraph it a little bit, right?
Yeah. Different roles, each promotion. By the way, put each promotion in there. Each promotion looks fantastic.
All right. So the other 2 things, so we talked about those from the thing. Talked about understanding the best leadership style and culture. If there's something that we didn't cover around that, put it in the chat or send it in the question section. We'll take a look at it.
Here's a good question, by the way. Tell me about how many salespeople followed you from your last job to this job.
If you're a sales leader? You mean ask that question?
If I'm the candidate and I asked the interviewer, how many salespeople from your previous job came over to work for you at this current job? That'll tell you a lot. 0. Oops.
So Steve put a great question in the chat. What questions should you not ask aside benefits and comp? Which you should at the right time, just not early. What are the kinds of questions you shouldn't ask?
Well, it's the ones that are just the not thoughtful ones. It's tell me what's the 5-year plan, of the business. Like when you search Google for best candidate interview questions to ask, and it's like, what's your 5-year plan, and all these like generic questions that you'll go find on Monster or something, baloney like that. Those are definitely not the questions to ask. I don't mind if you ask about money, by the way. People get all hung up about that. I don't mind if you ask about money early on.
Yeah, but you're an educated leader. So it's the uneducated leaders who are following the headlines of, millennials, all they care about is promotions and salary. And it's like, well, who doesn't?
I don't know. What do you think?
But I think from I kind of like to go in and say, hey, I think Stacy said it in the chat of like, I like to go in and say, hey, I got a bunch of questions. If you'd like, I can start if you want to start, or you want to start. So I love taking that control. And I might even say, hey, I have these standard, what's a day in the life like? How many people are hitting it? By the way, can we just do those in email? because those are boring. I'd rather get to the more exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And you can even send it ahead of time. You can even say, hey, KG, looking forward to our meeting. By the way, I am curious about this. If you want to answer in an email, that's great. I just don't want to spend a ton of time talking about stuff that's fluffy. I'd rather get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And so I think those are ways to get rid of those fluffy questions. I think that the questions you shouldn't ask should be mindful of going too deep on personal stuff. Like, you've done your research, you see they had a gap in their resume. Don't ask. Like, okay, why were you, saw you had a gap in your resume. Now you're making them be defensive. So I don't want to do that. Comp and benefits, I 100% agree. You don't do it in the first conversation unless they bring it up. But let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about the salary, right? So, KG, how do we talk about that? One, how do we talk about it when they ask first? And two, what do you do when they give you a range?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, it's illegal to ask, what did you make at your previous job?
Oh, stop. Don't even worry about it. Like, nobody cares. Like, believe me, if they're asking that question,
I'm not going first.
It's illegal. You don't even need to answer that. Just be like, if you say, well, that's illegal, you can't ask. Guess what?
No.
So don't worry about that. Get on to the good stuff.
Yeah. So, if they're going to ask, likely, what are your comp expectations?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say, and I simply like the answer, obviously I'm not going to leave my current job without getting paid more. And I want to get paid, at market or above, of course. And then you turn it back. And what is compensation for this? They brought it up,
yeah.
But I'm saying I'm not going to leave for an opportunity where I'm getting paid the same or lower. Now, if you don't have a job, currently, it's, I want to get paid market or above, but I am not going to give the number first.
Yeah. So here's how I do what KG said. Hopefully, and not that KG said it wrong, but in a succinct way, which is, hey, I just want fair market value. What's your range?
Yeah.
So now they know that I know that I'm not an idiot. And now they have to answer the question first.
That's right. It's a negotiation, right, Richard?
Yeah.
It's a negotiation.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so great. So, and then they're going to give you the range if they give you a range. And I say, great. What's the difference between the low end and the high end?
Yeah.
Because they won't know how to answer it, by the way. They're going to give you some bullshit answer of, and then they're going to lowball you when they make you the offer anyway. And you're like, no, you said the range was here. Tell me why I don't have that experience. Right. So, anyhow, so that is the one I talk about. I like this question from Steve about what's the budget for this position.
Yeah.
For my own sales training, I hate the word budget. That's my challenge. I might flip it just creatively here in the moment and say, great, what's the ROI compared to salary that you're expecting, just to like throw them off, because they'll never they don't know how to answer that question either. So you can see I like to make people squirm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk. So there's salary, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of look, I expect fair market value. I try not to worry about, hey, I need 10% over because of what I'm not going to leave another job. I want to see what they think fair market value is.
That's right.
And if they lowball me, I'll be like, okay, well, at least now I know where I'm starting and I can decide.
That's right. It's a negotiation, Richard.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go first, because if that range is wide and there's a low end, they're going to give you the low end.
I've had one time in my career where someone said, well, hey, I asked first, so you need to go first. And I said, yeah, but then I'd be a terrible salesperson for you to ever hire.
Yeah.
You have to go first. And it created the chuckle that KG just got.
Yeah.
They went first. If I'm getting to that far into the conversation, I got a little bit of juice in me, right? Now, all this stuff you're hearing, I want to pause for a second. All this stuff you're hearing from KG and I, all this sort of way to push these leaders. If you are currently unemployed and you need health benefits and you have a family and you can't sort of take your time, then by all means, go do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And it may mean you take a job you don't want, but you got to go do it because you need to take care of things. Before I became a consultant, I lost a job in October I was making 150 grand. 180 was my W-2. Base was 100. I went starting in January. I went from that. This is 2000, actually 2008 during the recession. That was my thing. My next job was 50 grand with no insurance.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my fear was, this was that piece where I was like, I can't have a gap in my resume. I need to go show that I don't have, and this, so if you have to make decisions like that, I just want people to know it's okay. No one here would ever hold it against you. We support you. We love you. We want you to find jobs. So please just, do what you need to do. Take our advice. We understand if you can't be quite as snarky as we are. We get it. Like, we also got to entertain you for 45 minutes. All right. So salary conversations. There are lots of things that you can put into the negotiation that are, they're in there a lot more now, but it's base, it's compensation. You can negotiate time off. You can ask for more. You can work from home. What's your work from home policy? It's a little easier to do now than it used to be. Gym memberships can matter. I've seen people do student loans and ask for that. Even if it's not in the salary, in the comp plan, it's like, by the way, do you have an education stipend?
Yeah.
Right. It's a good thing to talk about that leads them somewhere.
If it's important to you. If it's important to you, you want to get secondary education type of stuff, post-secondary, ask about that. Richard, when do you have more leverage with your company? When you're interviewing with the company or when you already work there?
You mean like for an internal promotion?
No, here, I'll just say it. When you're interviewing for a job and they like you as a candidate, Chris has got this. You have more leverage when you're interviewing for the job. When they like you,
yes,
and you're moving forward in the process, you have more leverage to ask for stuff than when you already get there. Because once you already get there, they're like, well, he'll have to quit and he'll have to go find another job and he probably doesn't want to go for that. So you know what? No, I'm not going to give you that education stipend, that you're asking for now and trying to justify. Yeah. You have more leverage when you're interviewing for the job.
So I have a slightly different opinion of that. Yes, you can go, by the way, you can go ask for these things. If their opinion is, well, now they're going to have to find a new job if it's that important to them, it's like, yeah, I already got this job. You think it's going to be that hard? Number one. Number two, how long is it going to take you to find someone to replace me? Go fuck yourself. Like, right?
I love how salty you are.
I know rant time, interview time. I know the economic impact of all that stuff. So how you say it, I wouldn't say it the ways I've said it.
Yes, that's right.
How you say it matters. But what are the other things we can negotiate for that people maybe don't think about? And by the way, if anybody in the chat's like, oh, I once negotiated this, put it in there. Let people know, because sometimes you bring in a list of things and all you really want is, the salary, the compensation, these things. So you can throw away the education thing. Oh, okay. So you don't do really an education stipend. Okay, fine. You don't offer that here. Start date. That's great. Yes, starting date's a great thing to negotiate. I think you can, if options are in play, which we should talk about for a second. I know we're getting short on time, but you can negotiate for more options.
Absolutely.
The types of options you get. There's a difference between just sort of standard and the RSUs, the restricted stock units. So do some research on that. The other thing that I will tell you to avoid. Any founder who wants to promise you the world with a lower salary and options is clueless. Your options are worth $0.0. They mean nothing. They're not all going to go public. KG is one of the rare people that I know who's been able to follow and build that success.
That's right. One out of six. The stats are 1 out of 6 will have some sort of liquidity event. And that may not even mean that you participate in that. So what Richard is saying is don't overvalue the stock options, because you're going to get sold a bill of goods. And the probability that those are actually worth any cash is actually pretty darn low. So don't fall prey to that. I would agree.
So there's a couple of thoughts around that too, is that nobody's ever taught you that you're going to have to pay taxes on those options before you ever get any money, have they? So which if you don't have the cash, guess what? They're
Yeah.
gone. So there's all kinds of stuff like that you can think about. Don't buy into the options piece when it comes to compensation.
I negotiated for a car allowance, Richard, one time and got it. $350 a month. Boom.
Yep.
Why? Because I asked.
Yep.
These are little things that you can ask for. And you know what? I love it when a salesperson comes back to me and says, hey, can we talk about this a little bit? What areas are flexible or not? You know why?
Yep.
Because that tells me that they're going to do that thing potentially when they're in the sales job and negotiating with customers.
Yep.
I
totally
love
it. Great question from Steven. Let's go there. And then I know we're going to have to wrap up. And by the way, thank you to Sales Hacker for having this conversation. Definitely appreciate it. I am actually doing a live session next week with Colin Cadmus and Scott Liesel on stock options and understanding them. You can check them out on my website and register.
I saw that
there, harrisconsultinggroup.com. But if you want that closing strategy, but dude, Stephen, when I went through my rut before I became a consultant, this was my problem. 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews and not getting the job. I'm going to give you one thing to do, and then I'm going to turn it to KG because he probably has better insights than I is, which is one, go to the people you know and trust who know your job and career and say, here's where I'm at. What do you think I'm missing? And this means you got to be super open and vulnerable. It's not easy and it might be uncomfortable. It could be maybe you're just not asking the right kinds of questions, which is fair. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm going to shut up because I know we're short on time. But KG, we got about 5 minutes. KG, what advice do you have for Stephen?
Well, if you get, this is just like a sales call, Richard. You get to the end of your interview and part of your questions that you're going to ask is, what are next steps? Where do I stand in this process? What does it take for me to get an interview? Do you think I'm going to be getting an interview?
I would just say, when do I start?
That is the great assumptive question, and I love it. And you'll see me light up like a Christmas tree on interview.
And you'll also see them squirm and then go, well, we still got to go. Okay, great. How many other candidates?
Yeah.
Where do I fit so far? Like, to all these questions KG's asking, like, close them.
That's
and
right.
Then go, and in the end, you can say, look, KG, I know I got really direct there at the end. I just want you to know, I'm unafraid to ask these questions, right? So I think that's an important piece as you look to hire somebody.
Yeah, especially in sales.
Anyway, I interrupted you, KG. What else?
No, it's all good. And those playing the home game here, Stephen, in particular, take real copious notes about, when you get off your interview, take notes about how that interview went. And you can optimize your own interview process when you start to replay when it's fresh, how that went, that went down. It sucks when you get to the end. And I have a friend who that the same thing happens there, but you have to replay and write out your notes about how that thing went down. But if the closing strategy is all about asking the questions, when do I start? Who else is involved? When do you plan on making a decision? Am I the candidate, for you or not? Let's talk about that. That's going to be super, super valuable to helping you, close that business. Honestly, it's asking, can I start on Monday? That assumptive close, works quite a bit. And if it doesn't, you're going to understand what went wrong during the interview, hopefully.
Totally. All right. Last couple of questions, but again, thank you for joining us. I just put our LinkedIn profiles in there. Feel free to connect with us. By the way, feel free to put your LinkedIn profile if people want to connect with each other. It's cool. The thank you email, KG. Let's talk about it.
Send it. It's different. Most people don't. I love it.
So I've gotten creative on this. One thing is, I've actually, a long time ago, I've actually sent the email before I went. I said, hey, just want to send this thank you email. I know we haven't actually chatted, but I want to make sure you know that I'm going to send a thank you email, because that's what you're supposed to do. And then send another one afterwards saying, summarizing. I think the thank you email, by the way, if you send it after, should say, love the conversation. These were my biggest takeaways from you. And show that you listened. Show them you did some active listening. Right? Don't sell yourself, but just be better than the traditional thank you email. I've also been known, and I did do this when you actually had to go out to interviews. I actually had my thank you notes written, pre-addressed, stamped, and it said, "Hey KG, thanks for the time today in your office. I really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to hearing from you." And if that interview went well, got dropped in the mailbox. I didn't want to have to come home and write that later. I just wanted to get it done. So, and it got there faster because it was that day. So, all right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Samantha, we'll turn it back to you. Thanks for letting us just go all in.
Yeah, for sure. I loved all of that. Such great takeaways here. Thank you, KG and Richard, for sharing your time with us and giving such insight to the community. We treasure that time. So everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you next week at our next webinar. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, good luck.
Everybody.